UAP, unidentified anomalous phenomenon. Are they extraterrestrial, interdimensional, time travelers in origin, or are they simply a result of top-secret military projects, false flag alien invasions, PSYOP, drones, or other human-made aircraft? Join the discussion now on UAP Crossfire.
Well, good evening, greatest audience on the planet, to UAP Crossfire. The gang's all here tonight. Chris, the Padre, the Silverback, Don Ecker, and myself. Very, very happy to be able to greet you all tonight. Wish you the most merriest of Christmases, Hanukkah, celebrations, coming new year. It's been a very interesting year for all of us. We've had a lot of fun on UAP Crossfire, and we've had a lot of fun because of the great audience that supports us and listens to us and keeps track of us. Couple admin notes. First, we need to have a small round of applause for the lovebirds, which would be Don and Vicky, celebrating their wedding anniversary. Here we go. There's the cake. I'm a little disappointed that there wasn't a UFO shape in either one of the tiers of the cake, but I think we'll make up for that next year. We'll have to send them a cake and recreate that picture.
Well, Charlie Deuce, a quick little addendum.
Sure.
We got married on my radio show that night.
Wow.
On the air.
Wow.
Wow. Mm.
That's pretty cool. Very cool, in fact.
And they said it wouldn't last.
Oh, well, anything more than 5 minutes on the West Coast is a record. So congratulations to you kids. You guys are setting the pace. Also, I wanted to throw out, we've talked about it a little bit through the show. Stan Gordon sent out his newsletter. He sent out in advance. I got it. 9 December was the anniversary of Kecksburg. He put some more stuff out on the research that's gone on. If the audience hasn't heard from it, just drop me an email and I'll be more than happy to get that connected, or track down Stan Gordon's website and you can read it. It's an interesting thing that he did some updates on, and it's always a fun case to talk to him about what he's been around on that. Well, tonight we're going to do At the Movies. UAP Crossfire had a really fun show when we talked about books, and we all came in with books that we liked. So we thought we would talk about movies. And I'm going to start off. Bill, I need the one about, it has, I think, ABC something mysteries there, and it's Distant Early Warning. I have a very interesting story. Well, first of all, you're right. Go back to that one. I kind of messed that up. So the one that we tabled, because we all have talked about this immensely, is A Day the Earth Stood Still. To me, this is probably one of the best intersections for almost every generation that's ever seen the movie. For what was there, I think it set the pace for a lot of how people wanted the UFO and extraterrestrial thing to go. There's just a lot of incredibly poignant moments in that one. So we kind of tabled that one, but it'll kind of come up, I think, through the course of the night. Now I'll take the Distant Early Warning. I apologize there. So I don't know if you guys remember this series. We're all pretty close in age. Wild World of Mystery was an ABC made-for-television movie series that they did, and they did all kinds of interesting pieces. So why I'm talking, Bill, go ahead and put the TV guide excerpt that I had for you. So the interesting thing about this is you can't see it anymore. It is lost forever. And it's very interesting because I've only seen it all the way through once. And I saw maybe the last half of it. And what had happened is the videotape was not archived properly. It was literally sent, the best copy they had, to Australia, where it aired on Australian television, and then it was lost. Now, there's a very interesting group of us that are on the internet that talk about this movie quite a bit. People that have seen it. Of course, it's based on a Bradbury short story, and its basis of the story is the Distant Early Warning site in the Arctic is approached by a UFO. And when the UFO lands, the occupants come into the station, and these are guys that are up in the snow, and they're all dead relatives. Everybody there sees the head of the station, his wife that was killed in a car accident, she's there. So everybody that comes into there, and they have cookies and hot chocolates and the whole thing, and they're just all trying to wrap their heads around this, and they're explaining that, how heaven works and all this stuff's going on. And then one of the guys pulls aside the captain that's running the station and says, the enlisted guy that's parents are here, he doesn't know who his parents are. He's an orphan. He grew up in an orphanage before he came in. He never met his parents. And then they start to figure out this isn't quite the way this is all unraveled. And it would be impossible to see. There have been numerous attempts to bring it up. The captain, realizes they unmask what they are. They're aliens. They're here to take over. They scan your brain as you approach, and that's how they make themselves look so that you will not be alarmed, and they're going to take over the planet. So while he is hearing this, he grabs the wires of a radio and starts tapping out in Morse code for them to drop nukes on them where they're at and take them and the aliens out to stop the invasion. And that's how it ends. You don't know what happens next after that. But the backstory and the group of us that have seen it, I think we're up to, I would imagine, someplace in the neighborhood or around 12 or 13,000 people that have been in and out of this message site talking about this show. And just how unfortunate that we'll never be able to get it all together. It's a shame. You can find little pieces of it, but the whole show has disappeared. So that's my first entry for night. Chris, to you, sir.
Well, first I want to say Merry Christmas, as Commander would say, to the greatest audience on the planet. Thank you for watching us. Thank you for being here with us. We enjoy bantering all about, and we enjoy bantering with you guys. And, the chat is really great. Keep it up. And I hope you have a Merry Christmas and a great New Year's. And anyways, I just want to say to Rick, the best alien movie, The Man from Planet X. Yeah, I enjoyed that one too. I haven't seen it in quite some time, but it's a good one. I'm a big fan, Commander. I'm a big fan of black and white sci-fi movies. I love the black and whites. I think they did a great job. And one of the favorites I have, and I usually get a bowl of popcorn and one of my favorite drinks and watch Earth versus the Flying Saucers. Now, I love Hugh Marlowe, and he's with Joan Taylor in this movie. And it's a corny movie because the way the Flying Saucers come in, they decide to, they just get married. They're driving down a road. There's cars going about them, but none of the other cars see the Flying Saucer, but the Flying Saucers directly right in front of their car. And they just happen to have a tape recorder going where they tape the message from these aliens. But the thing that I see in every sci-fi movie, when the aliens land, I think it's hilarious. He's either a cop or a soldier. Just start shooting at them. Yeah, I mean, they let's blast the suckers right back to Mars, wherever they came from.
Well, if you look at the day the Earth stood still, it happened in the day the Earth stood still.
Yeah, every single one. That's one of the things I noticed. I go, what the hell is wrong with these guys? I mean, if you came from God knows where, has this technology, don't you think they brought a couple of sidearms with them too? Maybe just in case these guys are idiots, which in Earth versus the Flying Saucer, these guys get zapped, and I mean they're shooting away at this, and that we can't hit the Flying Saucer because they got our force field around it. And I'm like, dude, it's time to exit stage right. Snagglepuss, exit stage right. Let's get the hell out of here.
One interesting dynamic in that particular movie, though, is the fight between the government, the military, and the science community that's going on, and the scientists kind of getting used by the aliens and making the meetings. There's some interesting stuff that's alluded to in it. Obviously not a big budget film. And Don, you had a remark about that movie when we brought it up earlier this year, that a very famous Marine that did UFO Marine aviator did UFO. He gets a screen credit in there, and
Donald Kehoe was very,
Yeah.
very unhappy about that. He was, I guess the best way to describe Kehoe, when it came to this topic, he was a straight arrow. Okay? He was fine with anybody and everybody talking about seeing UFOs in the sky. But back in those days, if you told Kehoe that you saw one land, much less an occupant exit the craft, he immediately dismissed you. For whatever reason, they couldn't accept that. And when this film came out, originally Kehoe thought it was going to be a documentary. And
Far from it.
it of course was not. And he had a conniption about that. So yeah, you're right, Commander Cobra. Totally right.
well, while we're on you, let's have your first movie.
Okay, I got to go back to when I was about 7 or 8 years old. The first time on black and white television, I saw the original Howard Hawks movie, The Thing. Now, I got to say, later, I was to do quite a bit of a deep dive on this, and I discovered that The Thing originated from a novella that was published in 1938 in one of those pulp science fiction fantasy magazines. I don't recall, it could have been Astounding Stories or something
was.
like that. But it was written by an author by the name of John Campbell, who also was connected with the magazine, was an editor, and it came from a story called Who Goes There? And Who Goes There, which was, like I said, written in 38, was about a group of Arctic scientists that somehow stumbled over what appeared to be an aerial wreckage of some kind that had been in the snow, the ice, for quite a long time, and they discovered a body beside the craft. They dug it up, took it back to their base, thawed it out, which was a big mistake, and this thing was a shapeshifter. Now, what worked, what caused this to be such a absolutely mind-bending horror story was the paranoia. The fact that suddenly here are all these guys who thought they knew each other. Now they know this creature is among them somewhere, somehow, someone, and they don't know who it is. Now, Howard Hawks took that story and turned it into a movie called The Thing from Another World. Now, in this rendition, the Arctic group that is up in the Arctic with some top-notch level atomic scientists, all those early films, sci-fi films, they always had to have a top-level atomic guy because, hey, it had just been a very few short years since the end of World War II where we dropped 2 atomic weapons on the Japanese. So they managed to photograph something coming down from the sky and apparently crashing into a snowfield. And then they had a huge magnetic disturbance they couldn't explain. So the Air Force, by then it was the U.S. Air Force, sent a crew up there. The captain in charge and the chief pilot, his name was Captain Hendry, gets up there. Of course, he has a love interest up there. And I got to tell you, the first time I laid eyes on her, I fell in love with her too, Margaret Sheridan. Oh my God, was she hot. But anyway, that being
Yeah, you
said,
need to check that. It's your anniversary there, dude.
That's true, but hey, my wife knows. I mean, we have no secrets. So anyway, it turns out that they go out, they discover the craft, they try to get it out of the ice using thermite, and it blows the craft up. Now, I tried to think about that. Here it comes from another star system, and a couple of relatively benign thermite bombs caused the ship to blow up. That never made sense to me. But hey, that's the story. But they found a creature. They dug him up, took him back. He ended up thawing out, but he was not a shapeshifter. He was later described as being like a giant carrot, a vegetable creature, but a vegetable creature that drank blood. That's how he reproduced. And they tried shooting it and all kinds of stuff. They finally managed to electrify it with electricity. But when I saw it as a kid, it freaked me out. But in 1982, John Carpenter did The Thing. And in this rendition, he stuck very closely to the original story.
Sure did.
This was a shapeshifter. And I saw it in 1982, okay, and I got to tell you, that thing gave me nightmares that night. It was that terrifying. And
Carpenter
it was,
is an incredible director. Absolutely incredible director. Very
the
talented
paranoia
man.
is what did it.
But I mean, they are still groups that talk about the ending of his version of The Thing. Was one of the two of them the creature? Why did it end the way that it did? And as you said, it goes very close to that original. In your honor, Don, I changed my background picture to the very scene because when you were talking one night about this, you said this is one of those epic scenes for you when you were young, when they stretch out on the ice and they basically are on the perimeter of the ship. And, the reporter whistles, and we've got one, and it's a UFO. And it is. Howard Hawks, the man could cut a scene pretty damn good. And that is a very, very impressive scene that they did with that.
Well, the thing in that movie, when it gets loose and it gets into their greenery house, okay, they find a totally bled out dog, and then two scientists ended up getting totally bled out, and they think they may have this thing trapped. They get up to the door, they open the door, it's right there. That was a shock scene.
Oh, yeah, well done.
And the airman, okay, has an M2 carbine, a totally automatic carbine. And he fires a burst into the door, which that was some pretty good special effects. And didn't do a thing to the creature, not a thing, just like punching through vegetation. So that was very, I found that scene very
and the
terrifying.
Thing, the monster, went on to be in Gunsmoke for a number of years as the Marshal.
And a lot of people do not know that James Arness, yes, Matt Dillon, that played the Thing, okay, was a World War II veteran of Anzio. And if you ever see, and of course everybody, I mean, that show was on for 20 years, see him walk around and he had a noticeable limp. That limp came from a burst of a German MG-42 machine gun. He got shot up bad. So I got to give Arness full credit for that. That guy was a hell of a man.
Do you know the further story to that, Don? And that is that the reason he got shot is he was up front of the landing craft, and they wanted him to go first because he was the tallest man on the boat, and they weren't sure how the water was.
Yeah, how deep the water
was. So he went out first and got shot for his trouble.
So if he drowns, nobody gets off the boat.
You'll just wait till it gets a little bit closer if it's over his head.
Yeah. Hey, Charlie, you got to get a little closer.
Friends. Military precision under fire. Padre, let's start
Yes.
with yours.
Okay. I think that one of the finest UAP alien movies that I've ever seen is the movie Signs, starring Mel Gibson and Joaquin Phoenix. This is a M. Night Shyamalan movie, so it has a lot of twists. I'm kind of partial to this because of the occupation of Mel Gibson in the movie. He is a pastor who thinks he may have lost his faith, and then he's got his I think Joaquin Phoenix plays his brother,
Right.
and he's now a single dad with two small kids, and they're trying to raise them on this farm. And it's a story that unfolds with an alien invasion, and it seems that there's nothing that can stop these things, and some twists and turns along the way. So I really like that movie.
It's a definitely a strong horror movie. It has some very deep philosophical lines to it that are worth watching. But there are parts of that are unnerving, and there are some parts that are unbelievably funny.
Yes.
And when you can mix really serious humor into a movie where the tension is ratcheting it up, you are pulling the audience into a very, very dark, tight place. Mm-hmm. I'm not a real big fan of all his movies, but he's got a couple of them really, really knockouts, and this is definitely one of them. I agree with you. And I like the whole story because that's a movie that almost anybody can watch. But I have to tell you, the part where they were all wearing the tinfoil hats is perfect. But when he is in the, I guess, like under the stairway where he had the TV, and they were showing the first time that the alien had uncloaked, and it was like in Brazil or someplace in South America, and he's yelling in Spanish to the TV to the kids to get out of the way, and the kids are screaming because it's at a birthday party, and you see the alien walk through the back part of it. Just absolute, classic move. All right, Skywatcher, throw yours up, please. Love the movie. Absolutely love the movie. You going to join us for
Starman.
Andy Burbage?
I will come on. And hello to everybody watching. Happy holidays, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year. Now, I seen that as a kid, and I was just starting to get into these type of movies, and I thought the story was fascinating. Like to have this sentient being come in first contact and take over the human form of the one that's in the photo, and the way the whole character relationship between the two of them, and then you've got, of course, like Chris said, the military's involved. They're trying to get him, and just how that whole movie evolved and the interaction with human beings, with the deer scene. I was like, wow, that was to me a profound scene. And just the one thing, it was a low budget, but again, like The Thing, the remake, another John Carpenter movie. I mean, Carpenter made quite a few of these movies.
Guy is just absolutely kick-ass director. I mean, he is just a kick-ass director.
So, yeah, this was one of my favorites. And, of course, it had a good ending. I didn't want to go off the rails with, like, one of my favorites, Alien. Like, that I wanted to get into a more positive theme of these type of movies.
Well, Alien and Aliens, that's a very positive movie. You're going to get eaten. You're going to be, thrown out in space. Yeah. Your cat's going to die. I mean, yeah, it's a happy movie.
Starship Troopers or something.
Oh, my God. Absolutely phenomenally good fun there. And there's a lot of really good science fiction, a lot of science to the science fiction of that.
So you'll see the theme as I have two more, but I'll just put them up, and I just want to hear what you guys have to say about them.
Well, a reason I bring up Starman, I got to fly over the crater in Winslow, Arizona, a number of times back in the day when I was going over there, and it's actually quite a beautiful spot. And there's another movie where, as with Carpenter does in his movies, there is some very good humor that's built into these movies. And, of course, the part that my wife loves in that movie is when he is driving the car, as he says, and they almost get killed going through the intersection, and he goes, "No, I did what you did. When it's yellow, I go fast, and they go whipping through there and almost, get killed." And I use the line in that movie all the time. Probably one of the greatest movie lines ever. Well, what do you think of us? When things are at their worst, you're at your best. And it's I have put that up against so many different pictures and video clips that have gone up in that, and it's a striking sentence, and it does seem to fit. Also, I'd like to remind you that the Starman was goofing around with his ship. That's what caused the crash. If you watch it closely, he got way too close, and he was hot dogging with his spaceship, which is still another very interesting to me cut that's in that.
The one thing I'll say, they tried to make a made-for-TV series based on.
Yes.
Yes.
Remember that, Don? And that was
Yes.
pitiful. I mean, they should have did it right. They should have did a sequel movie and done it right with the son being born and maybe a new connection with dad out there. Yeah. But that TV series,
it's terrible.
It's like V, the original V.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed it, and then they did these spinoffs. Like the remake, the first remake was decent, but then it just went down the tubes. So
well,
anyway,
let's swing back to Chris.
See you guys.
Yeah, well, first of all, that movie is an awesome movie that Bill described. I love it and stuff. Well, my next pick was a little more of a serious movie. It was called Arrival. And I just like Don, I love Amy Adams. I mean, she's absolutely a phenomenal actor when she's not doing stuff with her nose. And I can't say what I want to say on the air, but anyways, Jeremy Renner is a great actor. Forrest Whitaker, I love him, but you could see the interaction between Amy Adams plays a linguistics. She's called in because several ships have arrived throughout the world, and basically they are coming to offer something to humanity. And if you go into the plot, the reason is that because down the line, they have the pre-notion that they're going to need the human race to help them down the road. So they come and say, hey, let us help you so you can survive. But just like typical stuff that happens, as they're dissecting their language, they have to learn the language to find some of this stuff out. As they're dissecting the language, they get one of the words mixed up. And they're saying, we're going to give you this tool. They interpret it as, we're going to give you this weapon. And they're going, oh my God, if the Chinese get it or the Russians get it, because there's a ship over China, there's a ship over Russia and everything else. So as they misinterpret the words, they say, well, what's the best thing we could do? Well, let's blow them up. We might as well, if we can't get the weapon or we're afraid of the weapon, why don't we blow them up with our weapon? See what happens. And so they actually do try to blow up the aliens, and it doesn't. Well, they actually kill one of the aliens, and the other one survives and says, kind of basically in layman terms, says, what the hell are you guys doing? We're trying to come here and make peace with you, and you're trying to kill us, kind of a deal. And the interesting part of the movie where it gets serious is that Amy Adams' character gets a promotion about her daughter, and the aliens actually say, you're going to have a daughter, but your daughter's going to die in 12 years. She's going to have an incurable disease, and they work with her to have her understand why this is happening. And the other part of the movie is that she actually saves humanity by, explaining to the Chinese, because the Chinese are going to just start blowing them up and start a war with these aliens. And basically, she calls the premier of China, who we would call Xi Jinping now, but I don't remember his name in the movie. But basically, it saves humanity by this, and then eventually marries Jeremy Renner, who's also a scientist. They do have a child. She tells Jeremy that the child will die in 12 years. He can't handle it and leaves. And she basically how the movie goes. I mean, that's pretty much what it is. I thought the acting was great. I thought the special effects were amazing. I don't know how they did those two creatures that they call Abbott and Costello. The two aliens were called Abbott and Costello. And how they were able to do such special effects as they did. It's a really great special effects movie. If you guys really want to see something that will twist your mind, Arrival is the one.
Any comments, gentlemen? I thought the special effects were great. I didn't think the story, the movie executed real well. I think they tried a lot of things in there. Maybe it needed to be longer, but it is a good movie, and the visuals are excellent in it. Anything from anybody else?
Good special effects, but I agree with you, Commander. It didn't really hold my attention. It was
Kind of fell flat. Yeah, it just fell flat to me. Just the way it went.
and not enough gunfire to suit my taste.
Oh, there you go. That's what you always want to hear out of your Padre. Wants to see the lasers and the photon torpedoes.
Well, they put the guns aside and just try to use a big-ass bomb. I mean, that's pretty much what they did.
Don, your next one, please.
Once again, back in the mid-1950s, as a young kid, I saw another movie, at the time in black and white, although it was in Technicolor, a movie titled This Island Earth. Now, when I saw it, I gotta say, it blew me away. I just recently rewatched it, and gotta say that for the most part, it held up fairly well. The movie is now 70 years old. At the time, the special effects for that time period were pretty much cutting edge. But what the movie is about, and I've been thinking all week that, boy, if they were to redo that film today, boy, I think we would have something. But it's about extraterrestrials that came down to Earth, were living among us, look pretty much human, although not entirely. If you've seen the movie, you'll know what I'm referring to, with the really high foreheads and the hair. But they went about recruiting the top atomic and electronic specialists that they could find literally around the globe. The reason? Their planet, as this movie is beginning, is under attack by another extraterrestrial species. And quite honestly, they're getting their backside handed to them. Now, what is going on? These hostile aliens are bombarding their planet, utilizing giant meteorites and asteroids. Now, we know what happened here on planet Earth roughly 66 million years ago, when a giant asteroid impacted, and suddenly sands were gone with we're done with the dinosaurs. That's what these aliens are trying to do. And their basic protective shield is being fueled by atomic power. The problem is they're running out of things like uranium. So they're trying to get these Earth-side scientists to figure out, can we transform lead back into uranium? That's one of the things that they're working on trying to do. Now, it ends up that they run out of time, and the Earth scientist and his female scientist girlfriend are taken back to their planet. Okay, they're going to try to work on the planet, but as they get there, the planet is in the last vestiges of defense. And the planet, quite frankly, gets smashed to smithereens. So the original alien, his name is Exeter, played by Jeff Morrow, end up taking them back to Earth. But as they're going back, they're attacked by these hostile aliens. make a long story short, when they get back, they're released, they go back out onto the planet. His ship is basically too badly damaged and he crashes into the ocean, and that's the end of it. But I always thought the premise is very interesting. And hey, I think all of us today, right here, and if I'm wrong, please correct me, believe that we do have extraterrestrials currently walking among us as human beings. So I found that fascinating. That was intensely interesting for me.
I thought the visuals in that movie were astounding. I never saw it in black and white. I saw it in color. And it has some very interesting. I always remember the scene when they land the ship and they have to come down from where it lands, and it's that almost like a mountain kind of conical kind of thing through there, and all the tricks that they had to do with the movie. Obviously no CGI. They had to do a lot of almost like a cartoon kind of
matte paintings.
Yeah, and then have action, stop action cartooning in there, and then depth perception running where they have a big depth of field and the vehicle moves. Pretty well done, and the premise is good. I'm a big fan of those movies. On that, I could have done all mine tonight on those, but I wanted to show that I had a wider range. And speaking of a wider range, Padre, your next one, please.
My next one is a movie that didn't get a lot of publicity, but it is a terrifying film called Nope. Stars people you probably haven't heard of. It's got a unique take on UAP. I was particularly intrigued how they took the type of UAP that tends to hide in the clouds and made a movie about it. And I can't say a whole lot about this film without major spoilers. So let me just say that this is one you don't want to watch alone, and you want to make sure you leave a few lights on.
Wow.
It delves pretty deeply into the horror genre with the basis of UAPs. I found it kind of disturbing, to be quite honest with you. It's one of those movies that I don't know if I could say that I really enjoyed it or liked it, but it's a well worth watching, if that makes any sense.
It's such a different take, and I think that's what drew me. And they're not definitely our Space Brothers, and it takes a twist on the whole UAP discussion as to what they are that we've occasionally talked about, sort of been skirting around.
Right.
And definitely worth a watch.
Yeah, they definitely played that one. Skywatcher, throw yours up. So I'll go first. I love the movie. Obviously, having been living in Pensacola, stationed there, it has a little play in there. When she's a girl, and then when she's with the aliens, they create it. Although it didn't look anything like Pensacola, but that's what the aliens thought Pensacola looked like. I think a lot of the stuff that was done in that movie is absolutely excellent. When you think of the behind the scenes, the all the things that are going on there, the budget that basically has two, and then it's not, you don't have verifiable proof except when she comes out, because she's only there for what appears to be an instant where she, time has changed. I think was really well done. I think it was a very, very interesting movie. I liked the fact of the dynamics that went on with the religious aspect, the sociological aspect. There's just a lot that happens in that movie, and one of my favorites. It's a good one. Chris, you got any reaction to it?
I loved Contact, and I thought it was a great movie where I really think that they had got to the point where you can almost see that happening, where the alien race would give us a little bit of how to figure out time travel, or not time travel, but space travel in the way it is done. What got me was the scene on the beach with Jodie Foster when she thought she was seeing her father.
Right.
And they basically said, well, this is the form that we thought you would be comfortable with. But here's the amazing part is that, and I thought this was very intriguing, is that just like with the grains of sands here, we weren't the ones that came up with this. This has been done long time ago, and this is the process that everybody has always done. And so maybe, in a way, maybe that's what we're heading, is through a certain process for us to be ready to accept other races in the universe. But I thought Bill picked a great one with Contact with Jodie Foster. It was outstanding.
Don?
Jodie Foster shone in that film. And I found the part where she was originally communing with these extraterrestrials. And like you said, it only seemed to take a few seconds. But if I remember correctly, they had her wired up with some type of microphone or something, and they had 18 hours of blank tape when she came back. So that was, I thought that was extremely clever. But you know what? Chris has often mentioned that, you know, these aliens, by golly, if they're coming down here, why don't they do something to prove their good intentions? A better mousetrap, for God's sake. A way to get rid of the plastic pollution in our oceans. A more peaceful transfer from fossil fuels to another sustainable energy system. And so far, that hasn't happened. Although, hey, in full disclosure, if that were to happen, that would screw up world economic things for God knows how long. But maybe medical breakthroughs, cancer cures, something along those lines. And we haven't seen it. And even if they provided that, here comes the imponderable question. Would our betters allow that to come through? That's the question.
Well, you're back to the premise of the X-Files.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Yes,
Dan,
I
any
am.
reaction to Contact?
I like the movie. It's been a long time since I've seen it, but I thought it, as far as Jodie Foster movies go, you know, I'm generally not a big fan of her movies, but I think that ranks up there as probably her best in my view. And it was an interesting storyline. Found the ending was a little unsatisfying, but interesting look also into the deep state and the politics of the whole thing, as Don alluded to.
There's a lot of fun aspects to it. It's definitely a sharp movie. Skywatcher, go ahead and throw my next one up. So this one I attribute to Don. Don turned me on to this movie, and it's a demanding movie, is the way I'll put it. CIA Special Forces team, Afghanistan, go into a region where it's just treated with a lot of avoidance. There's something there, and they are there to retrieve and get contact and get the alien, get the technology, get the pieces that are there. And it has a kind of it has a certain darkness to it, to put it mildly, that will start to eat at you while you're watching the movie. And we have knowledge of this, these beings, the entities that are there, the ship, the locals, stay away from this particular part. There's the dynamics of the Central Intelligence Agency having a certain program and design what they want to pull on this. These Green Berets are kind of pulled up in the middle of it. They're treating it like they would any tasking or mission that they have. And it has, to me, it has a realistic ending, if I can put that. Don will probably be able to help backfill us, Liz, because the reason I say it's realistic is there's a transference, there is a connection that's made with one of the members of the team, and he's being brought in and studied at the end, and things are just going to continue to go as they have and move forward. It to me, there was a disturbing aspect to it as well, and we've had a lot of stories of, I remember from World War I, the first one that I had ever read, of during battle, alien encounter, alien activity around it. And I think it was a really interesting premise to go with. But Don hooked me up with that movie a number of years back. And I usually pull it out about once a year to watch it again. And I find it's just as difficult or just as entertaining, however you want to look at it. It doesn't seem to mellow with me at all when I watch it. So I'll start with you, Don, since you're the one that brought me to the movie. Any thoughts there?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, quite a few thoughts. My wife often accuses me of being extremely skeptical and very suspicious. Okay? And hey, I'll be the first to cop to that. I am. But I did some thinking about that, some very deep thinking. And I came to the conclusion that it began back when I was in Southeast Asia. Now, the kind of stuff that my unit was doing in Southeast Asia, and I've mentioned this a number of times, were involving intelligence matters. But as a result of that, we were Army, and we ended up colluding with CIA and NSA. Now, actually, the NSA was our supreme authority, okay, in the Army Security Agency. They were the top dogs, but the CIA was involved in a lot of stuff. And I learned early on, and had it reinforced by other people in my unit, senior as well as guys in my NCO ranks, that the last thing in the world you want to do is ever to put your fate entirely in their hands, because in the right circumstances, and I'll just be very blunt, they got no problem shit-canning you if it works in their favor. So, make a long story short, yes, that's where I think a lot of my skepticism, and nay, should I say it, even to an extent, paranoia, basically began stemming from. So this film, the first time I saw it, boy, it drug up a lot of stuff from my time in Southeast Asia. And the CIA asset that was attached to this SF group was a guy by the name of Benjamin Keyes. And the first time I looked at that guy, and remember, this is a film, right? This is a freaking movie. But I looked at that guy and I said, I wouldn't trust that son of a bitch any further than I could pick him up and throw him.
Well, it's good casting. No, they set everything up to not make you not be happy right from the start.
And I don't think you would disagree with that.
Nope, not at all.
Cobra. Okay.
But it's definitely a movie that's kind of under the radar. Chris and Dan, any chance that you have seen this movie?
I have not, but what Don is saying is one of the movies I got to see.
Me too.
I definitely got to see that. That's incredible what you're saying. And I love a movie that has turns and twists in the plots where you don't know where it's going. A lot of movies you can figure out what the ending's going to be. But if you get a good movie like you're saying, where you don't know what the ending's going to be, that's the one you hold on to.
This one gnaws at you the whole time. And there's one other thing that I'm going to put into this that I don't think Don may, if we talked long enough, he probably would have brought it out. Don shared one of his books stories with me, and it deals with a vampire. But the thing that I found interesting in that is that I almost feel like they kind of lifted some of your characterization in your writing in the objective, because of the way you set that book up and the things that are happening and the people that you wrote about that are around this. And there's a couple characters in there that you just would never put your back to them. You would always be very cognizant of the fact that they're driving something pretty evil, and they're very happy to be doing that. And as Don said, if you get eaten along the way, well, that was because that was just how fate worked it out, because we have a higher objective, and that's just how it is. It's I agree with that. That was a really interesting part. All right, we are going to Chris's next movie, please. And just take a quick check on the time. Chris, we'll probably get you, and then we'll be getting pretty close to break.
All right, well, real quick. My next movie is called Mars Attack. This is completely different. Now, I will tell you, before I saw this movie, I saw the lineup, and I said, this has got to be a great movie. It's got Glenn Close, Annette Bening, Pierce Bronson, Danny DeVito, Marco Short, Sarah Jessica Parker, Michael J. Fox, Pam Grier, Rod Steiger, Tom Jones, Natalie Portman, Jim Brown. I mean, you're figuring that a movie like that is going to be, hey, they must have paid a lot of money to have that goes in there. Well, I saw it, and I go, these guys must have been drunk when they signed that contract, because I go, jeez, because
anybody who shows up on the set for a Tim Burton movie has to know they're getting on to something pretty crazy. Yeah, the movie is absolutely fantastic.
Yeah, I mean, the special effects were amazing and stuff like that, but the thing comes out, and the thing is, and shoots a dove in the sky, and then they just started shooting this is the first time the aliens started shooting in any movie that I saw. I go, hey, these guys are blasting the hell out of them and stuff. Now, I to just make this quick, I saw the movie the first time, and I said, yeah, I don't know if I want to see it again. And then the second time, I sat down with a bottle of bourbon, and I actually enjoyed the movie. And the strange thing, I started understanding what the Martians were saying. I gotta say, gotta get drunk to watch that movie, and you'll have a blast with it.
So, listen, that movie has a certain affection for me, because it played a lot on one of my deployments in going down to Antarctica. It was on quite a bit, and everyone would do the ack, that started up. Yeah. And I was coming back to land on the ship, and it was just farcical what was happening on the ship. They acted like they didn't know we were coming back at the time that we were coming back, and people are running around, and the radio calls are, they aren't going the way they're supposed to. And we're listening to this, and I thought I was saying it on intercom, but I was actually broadcasting on the radio. And for those that have seen the movie, you'll understand the remark. God, there are brains exploding on that bridge like a Slim Whitman song playing in the background. And unfortunately, I broadcast that to a large part of the Pacific that afternoon. And a number of people on board the boat knew exactly what I was talking about. So it's to me, there's a lot of fun in that. No one took themselves seriously in that movie. They did a great parody on the Howard Hughes kind of aspect to things in there. They've got that piece in there. They made fun of all the movies that we talked about from the 50s and 60s, right? I mean, the head on the dog body, and the heads rolling around at the end, and no one really does the parts that you think they're going to do in that movie, except for Jim Brown. I mean, the part where Jim Brown is dressed as the gladiator, and punching out he's punching out the Martians. and the Martians are pulling out, and they got their little muscles, and they're all getting around him, and the plane goes by. I mean, there's just countless good stuff like that going on.
It's just amazing. The most god awful song I ever heard was the one that was killing the Martians.
That's the Slim Whitman song.
I was like, I got to lower the volume with this crap
Who
on.
here remembers on TV, especially on Saturdays, and my parents used to love to watch that Lawrence Welk show. God, I still have PTSD from that. I'll never be able to get that straightened out. They used to have a commercial for Slim Whitman. And one of the things they used to say about Slim Whitman, he was like 32 weeks #1 on the British some record count that was going on. And when he heard the guy singing, I mean, he's got a great voice, I guess, but it's just nothing I would ever want to listen to again. And here it is featured in this film that this is the one. And that's a complete takeoff on the Japanese movies where they make a noise that causes the spaceships to lose control because the noise is so annoying that it causes them to crash. Their ships crash. They don't have mental control. There's a lot of fun stuff that was weaved in there. All right, we're up against our break. Join us on the other side. We have a lot more fun, a lot more movies, and maybe even some more serious talk. UAP Crossfire, KGR Radio. Well, we're back. I'm going to be working in the background on this next one. I'm going to pick it up with Chris. Chris, your next movie, please.
The next one that I had was Mars. Mars
oh, no,
Attack.
I'm sorry. Left off with Mars Tech. Don,
Yeah.
pardon me. My timing is a little bit off here.
I only came up with 3 films. The Thing, and I already did those, and
Yep.
This Island Earth.
All right.
I was told to get 2 or 3, so
No, that's okay. Dan, I'm going to jump to you.
Okay, this next one is called Jewels, and it stars Ben Kingsley. Guys, if you're looking for a good date night movie, this would be appropriate. It is a very interesting and well-acted film. It stars Ben Kingsley as an elderly man who's very lonely. And there are really 2 themes run through the movie. One is about the loneliness that elderly people feel and how they try to fill that loneliness with various things. And then there is a very serious side, and that has to do with a spacecraft that has crashed into his azaleas. And the inability of the city council to believe him and remove the spaceship from his azaleas. Certain hijinks ensue. An alien entity appears on the scene, and that's about all I'm going to say. There are shades of the movie E.T. in this, as E.T. for senior citizens, but it's an interesting and a pleasant movie to watch called Jewels. Guys, what do you think?
I've actually seen this.
I saw it.
I
the
liked
film.
it. I thought it was a really good-natured movie.
I found it entirely and totally charming.
It was.
Ben
I agree with
Kingsley.
Don. Yeah, it was one of those movies, like you say, you sit down with a hot chocolate, nice cup of tea, and watch that movie, and you enjoy it. You have a good feeling afterwards about it. That's the way you would think that, you want to meet and greet an alien. It's quite different from Mars Attack and stuff like that.
The only problem I had with that movie, and this is minor, because both my wife and I, Vicky and I, are total animal lovers. We're all the dead cats. But that's all I'm going to say about that.
Yeah, that's the reason why I can't watch it with Mrs. Cobra. She just, I have to constantly explain to her that the dog or the cat or whatever didn't really die. It's a movie, and that didn't happen. And she just can't get past the presentation of it. So we avoid those. Throw up, Skywatcher, throw up my next one, please. So This was one of those really big ones for me because I grew up in the New England area. This is about Betty and Barney Hill. It was, I think, some of the best performances you could have ever had out of this. The deep connection to Franconia Notch, the White Mountains, where this is to have occurred. And there are some second orders of connection. I had family members that actually were in the postal service that worked in the same postal warehouse building that Barney did. And over the years, I thought the movie was, I thought for a television movie, I thought it was very well done. I think it brought a lot of points out. I don't think they took too many licenses on it. And over the years, it really helped me to follow a little bit more about them, to find out that, Mr. Hill really didn't want to talk about the UFO part because he was very strong into civil rights movement and continuing that. He thought that was going to be a distraction. And, they didn't really seek fame on it. There's just a lot there. I thought it was well done. And it was one of those, and I know tonight I've hit a couple of the TV movies, but most of these movies that I saw the first time, I actually saw on television. I did not see them in a theater the first time. And some I've never seen in the theater because of the age of the movie. Most of them I've collected over the years. But Betty and Barney Hill, the UFO incident, Chris, what do you think? Any reaction? You ever see it?
Yeah, well, first of all, I've always been intrigued by Betty and Barney Hill just simply because of the star map incident where she drew a map that everybody claimed was false, there's nothing there. And then years later, they find out that it's exactly what she drew. And that's always been intriguing about that. And of course, I know Kathleen Martin, who's a relative of Betty and Barney Hill. She actually has some of the evidence that was actually she has Betty's dress that she wore that night at the abduction. And so I've had a wonderful talk with her about Betty and Barney Hill. And I got to tell you, you were spot on about Barney really didn't want to have the attention to this. He kind of shied away from a lot of it because he thought that this would bring a lot of problems to his life. From what Kathleen Martin told me, he just did not want that type of...
He was pretty perceptive that it did, obviously.
Right, and stuff. But, I mean, they were also terrified. I mean, they were afraid that it could happen again. They were, just people would hurt them and stuff like that. And if you don't mind, I have just one other movie I'd really like to share with people because... I'm like I said, I'm a big fan of the 1950s black and white or the remake color movies, and one of them was the Japanese movie called Battle in Outer Space. Mm-hmm. And I think it's just a hilarious movie because you have all these Japanese military people fighting flying saucers and aliens, and the aliens are all Japanese too. So you get Japanese.
Well, our aliens tend to be Caucasians. So, I mean, what's the deal there, dude?
Well, I don't know. I mean, tall whites and little green men and stuff like that. But, I mean, I guess, hey, whatever. I guess you could do it. But I think it's kind of comical that you have, Japanese aliens, talking Japanese. And, of course, the movie, they always, their mouth moves, and then 3 seconds later, you hear the voice. So it's one of those 1959
you
movies.
Have any discomfort? No, I'm going to explore this with you, Doctor. You have no discomfort with, Caucasian aliens speaking English.
Oh, okay.
That doesn't seem any less fantastic to you than a Japanese film with Japanese aliens.
I don't know, but that picture right behind you there doesn't look like too much of a Caucasian to me that we have there. I mean, not that one there and stuff. I'm talking about the one behind Commander.
He's talking about the invasion of the saucer men. And, of course, while we're looking at my backdrop, one of the great movies of all time, Plan 9 from Outer Space, Ed Wood's seminal production of that. Absolutely, the backstory on it. If you've never seen the Ed Wood story, you've got to see that movie. The guy was absolutely out there, but I mean, just phenomenal. And I'm going to say, listen, he didn't have anything for money. Not Boris Karloff, forgive me. Bela Lugosi died while he was making that movie. He had a
really? I didn't know
chiropractor to fill in the scenes. He did a lot of backdrops in there. The UFO alien portion of the movie isn't actually that bad if you watch it. You just can't help but laugh and watch it. But the stuff that was happening in that, of course, Tor is in it. I have a good friend whose call sign is Tor. It's a very fun movie. But I was just picking on you for your characterization.
No, that's fine.
That you're
I don't
surprised
care.
that a Japanese movie would have Japanese-based aliens.
Well, if I ever see a Spanish movie and there's Spanish aliens, then I'll have to.
I can find you one. It won't take me very long to find one on
I'm
that.
sure you can.
And I guess then we can ask if you want them with their clothes on or off. We can have those movies too, if I have thrown in there pretty quick as well.
I'm sure there's a lot of Filipino movies that are maybe aliens doing something that we don't want to talk about on the show. But
I don't even want to think about it. And already the Padres working on a series.
Going to throw holy water on me.
A cleansing prayer.
A cleansing prayer. Thank you.
But I will tell you, I love those old Japanese movies.
There's
where their voice and sound doesn't sync with the picture, and Godzilla or like this one, the spacemen come down, and they just when you think they're taking over Japan, and they only fight in Japan. That's the thing. There's nothing like going on any place else. It's all Japan being attacked. So,
yeah, those darn Japanese making Japanese movies for Japanese audience. What are they thinking?
Yeah, how dare they?
How dare they? What do you got there, Dan?
Kentucky Skywatcher mentioned a film, and I said, how could I have forgotten this one? Buckaroo Banzai.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Mention has a cult following.
It's tremendous.
If there was ever a movie that begged for a series involving these characters, this was it. And
I just loved how they kept congratulating that he drove through the mountain. I was always one of my favorite sub parts of that movie. I heard you drove through the mountain. Congratulations. It was so well done.
The brain surgery sequence with Jeff Goldblum, and he says, "What's this? Don't touch it. We don't know what that does."
Audrey, that was a great movie. I laughed my butt off with it. I thought Jeff Goldblum must have got a lot of money to put on that ridiculous cowboy outfit with everything. I go, man, these guys got to be making some money because he's got to be saying, "I'm not wearing that shit."
Hey, Bill, pop up my next one, please, sir. So I threw this one in here because this one's got a very interesting twist and bend to it. A lot of people, they will argue about the Bruce Willis movies. Are they really Christmas movies or not?
Of course they are.
Of course they are. Exactly. And you have to say it with that tone, Don. I completely agree. But the final countdown, the ops officer who then is the one that stays behind in time when they go through the wormhole and stays behind and basically helps us win the war because he knew the history of the war because he's from the future going backwards. If you ever looked in his room, he had a lot of interesting pictures, and some of them had UFOs on the pictures. It had kind of a Fox Mulder down in the basement kind of look before Fox Mulder and the X-Files kind of down in the basement pictures were there. And, of course, Martin Sheen's in the middle of this, and he's playing one of those very slippery government kind of guys on there. I really enjoyed that movie. I could do a show just talking about all the different aspects of that movie and what happened and how it worked and how they put it all together. I thought it was really actually quite well done as a flick. Any thoughts on the final countdown?
F-14's dogfighting AT Texans masquerading as Japanese Zeros.
I detect a certain cynicism in the voice here.
An encounter that would have been over in less than 5 seconds.
How do you figure there, boss? I'd like to hear how you think those tactics are going to work.
I don't know, Phoenix missile at a distance, and blow them up that way. But to get in a gunfighting dogfight with something like that, when you could literally fly circles around it.
That's the problem. You would have to fly circles around them because they're so much slower. Actually, getting into a gunfight is about the best way to have handled that. That's what's happening in a lot of the battles that are going on now with high-speed jets and low-speed drone aircraft. So actually, the accuracy on that was pretty good for that, in my opinion, believe it or not. The Phoenix would not have done a good job because it wasn't a very big target for the Phoenix to hit. The Phoenix was designed to hit ships on the surface and big bombers that were moving at fairly high speed for closure, believe it or not. Maybe you could have got a SAM Sidewinder on there with the with a radar return there. Probably not the AIM 7 would have done very good, but the Sparrow might have been able to get some heat source. But it would have been pretty tough. That little airplane could have given them a really tough time. There's no way an F-14 would have ever outturned a Japanese Zero. They never would have got inside the turn. Never in a million years. I don't care how far you put those wings. They never would have been able to. If they did, they would have been so low on energy they would have come out. So I'm going to dispute you a little bit on your characterization that it wasn't just playful. The other part is they didn't know what they were encountering. They didn't know they were back in time when they first had it happen. I always thought the best part of that was when they're on the boat and they see those jets fly by and they want to know what the hell FDR is up to and what secret stuff is he been doing and what's the crap going on with the Navy. It seemed to be a fairly realistic play on that. To me, it's got a lot of really interesting science and science fiction laced into it. And then the decision, are you going to stay or are you going to go back? And obviously, I think everyone's probably seen the movie. Don, any takes on the final countdown? Because I know you're a big fan of the Swedish band that had the song, but I don't want to talk about that. I want to stick to the movie.
Yeah. The film itself, when I saw it, I found it vastly troubling. The concept, the proposition of, here's this aircraft carrier, 1980, that somehow gets sucked through a time warp, ends up 1941, right before Pearl Harbor. And after they realize what's going, well, the thing that I remember, they're picking up radio broadcast talking about tremendous fighting on the outskirts of Moscow. Okay. Now, that would have been, what? Okay, we just left the real time. What can this be? And then when they finally realize that somehow they're in 1941, what the hell do you do? You know a Japanese fleet is headed toward Pearl Harbor. You know what their intent is. How do you react to that? And on a gut level, I would want to send a strike package first thing and take out all those Japanese aircraft carriers. But if you did, then what? What does that do to the stream of history? And I don't know. I just found the whole concept troubling in the extreme.
There's some interesting parts to that as well. They launch because they're not sure what's going on. Like you said, they're getting some strange radio broadcasts, and the captain of the ship, and I have great affection for the Nimitz because I served on the Nimitz for a short time during Desert Storm, and so it's always going to be kind of one of my favorite ships because of my time there. And they launch those exploratory patrols when they get on the other side of the storm. They're trying to figure out what's going on. They got the Hawkeye up so that they can try to get the air picture. And as you said, Don, now you have to make the thing. And, of course, that's what's going on inside the room, with the captain and Martin Sheen's character, this whole we can reshape history. But would the ship still existed if they had stopped it? Or would the ship have disappeared because it may have never been built because the whole something would have changed with the people that were on there not have been born. I mean, time travel stuff like this, when it goes like this, is to me the ultimate time travel story is the one that was done in Outer Limits. If you remember, Martin Landau, the spaceship lands, and he's a librarian in the future, and he's all malformed, and he explains to the astronaut that this guy came along and he caused germ warfare and it wiped out the population. I'm the last of the people. So the astronaut says, we got to go back. We got to figure out how to get back. We're going to go back in the time. So he takes him back with him. And as he's going back through, Martin Landau gets to come back to our time and try to find this man and this woman that are going to get married, that are going to have the child that's going to wipe out the world. And the astronaut disappears when they go back to the warp. And he lands, and he has the ability to kind of shapeshift or give an impression that he's somebody else. He does interfere with the marriage. He leaves with her back into space to get away. And when they hit the warp again, he disappears. The kid was never born because he disrupted the marriage. So he disappears. And there's the woman in her wedding dress, because he stopped it at their wedding, all alone in space in this spaceship. No past, no future, because it's all gone a different direction from when she left.
Wow.
Time travel stuff is fun. But you really have to have your A game to me to make it work out. And obviously, you need to check your tactics with Padre if you're going to have jets and propeller airplanes going. Bill, do you have another one to toss in there? So I'm glad you brought this one up, because I think it's a really great one to end. At first, I did not particularly like this version, because I think, it went in a direction I did not like. I really like Keanu Reeves. I think he's a phenomenally good actor, but I just didn't like the whole environmental message that was there and the stuff going. But as I've seen it a few more times, I've really grown to appreciate it, and I really appreciate his acting in it. Chris, any thoughts on the new one?
Yeah, I actually enjoyed it in some parts. What struck me was there was two parts that really makes you think. One is when the Secretary of Defense comes in and goes, well, what are you doing here on our planet? And he goes, your planet. And that kind of goes, hey, that because we have theories now that there's other civilizations on this planet. Might not be just ours, it might be other people's. And then the other thing that, he says, or basically, is that you're going to have to change. And when he's talking to that other alien who is of Japanese, it looks Japanese or Chinese, the guy explains.
You really are developing a very interesting sideline tonight with your Asian alien.
What can I tell you?
I'm just going to throw it out there. Okay.
Well, give me a better word.
No. I mean, but you just keep bringing this up. You keep hammering it. I'm starting. We're going to get letters. Is all I'm going to say. We're going to get emails.
All right. Well, let's say he's talking to this other person. How's that? Does that sound better? He's talking to this other person. Who's an alien, and the alien says, oh, the human race, they're this, they're that. He's just, he's like, yeah, you ought to get rid of them. But he says, you know what, I'm going to stay here and die with them. He says, because I've learned to come to love them, which is, it's a love-hate relationship that you have with the human race. And we all have it. We hate things that happen here, but then you see wonderful things that happen here. It was an excellent movie. I enjoyed it. I love Reeves as an actor. He's super. I like you say, you have to watch it more than once to really enjoy it like you did.
Because I just had a negative attitude, because they were messing with a movie that was, to me, iconic, and I just didn't want. I didn't want to appreciate that.
So the first one was A+.
Let's jump to Dan's last real big thing here, because I think it's a really good one to jump into. There's a lot of fun around it, and we have we've got some very family ties to it. So let's jump into Dan's last one.
My last one tonight is Independence Day. And that really was a movie that I enjoyed watching. I've probably seen it 3 or 4 times. Will Smith is excellent. Jeff Goldblum is superb.
I'm going to ding you on that. I'm going to ding you on that one in a second because I want to hear your explanation on something. But go ahead. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
The way that they dealt with the alien threat, kind of a hat tip to the 1930s Orson Welles radio
Absolutely.
drama, that a virus that destroys the aliens, but getting that virus to them. You do have to really suspend belief sometimes in that movie, sometimes in a major way. But I really like it. It's got action. It's got humor. Mm-hmm. It's got interesting alien beings. Brent Spiner, otherwise known as Data in Star Trek Next Generation, he's in this one as the kind of goofy scientist, and he does a great job. Just an all-around fun movie.
I think they hit all the points in that movie. The facility, the president that doesn't know what's going on so that he has the deniability of what's happening. Jeff Goldblum is over the top with his whole rendition.
Well, his dad's the one that's really over the top.
His dad was tremendous. He's a good boy. I mean, you want to talk about how they played it all in there. What I'm surprised on Dan is, and I'm going to call you on quickly on this, Dan, before we go to Decker on this movie, is that you were upset about the F-14. Mm-hmm. Not using Phoenix missiles and blowing them out of the sky and all that. Mm-hmm. Yet you're comfortable with an F-18 guy who somehow can fly a helicopter. That's like somehow everybody has that skill set.
Well, you see that throughout the movie. The biplane crop duster can fly an F-18 suddenly.
Well, he was an F-4 pilot before he did the F-18.
And the president, who has been out of the cockpit, and who knows what he flew years ago. Yeah. There are plot holes like that. Yeah, but it's just a fun movie.
Oh, I agree. I want to kind of get your take on it. I guess I got it, and it's like it's no go. Cobra, it's no go. No, I get it. It's no go, Cobra. It's no go. You are going to suspend disbelief. Now let's talk about Don Ecker's connection with all this.
Well, at the time, of course, Vicki and I were publishing UFO Magazine, and we got word on this project. And honestly, now this is like, oh, good God, over 30 years ago. But we made some contact. We knew, in those days, we knew a lot of people in the television and movie industry. And we ended up going over and having some meetings about this, and we decided to do a big issue themed special issue on Independence Day. Now, when we did that, and when the movie finally came out, my heaven, that was one of the biggest events in years. For weeks, this thing was running almost 24/7 with lines, if you remember, going out and extending all the way around the block, people waiting to get in to see this. And the Nevada governor at that time, because, hey, this all takes place at that time, it was still an incredibly hot topic, Area 51. And of course, a lot of other things peripherally played into that. Bob Lazar, George Knapp, a lot of stuff, right? So we were contacted and asked that the Nevada governor is going to rename Highway 375 to the extraterrestrial highway that runs out past Area 51 in the black box. So they asked if we would be featured speakers out there. Well, we were. There's a photograph of us right after we arrived. And this is before all the stars filed in, and we had we were put up by the studios in one of their really nice hotels, and after Vicki and I were kicked off the Stars bus because we had been riding with the Stars, and Dean Devlin, the producers, all those guys. Well, we were just lowly, schlubs, I guess. So I said, screw it. And every damn meal we had back at that hotel from that point forward, steaks, baked potatoes, expensive wine, you name it, we ordered it. So because it was on their tab. But no, it was quite interesting out there at the time. Do you guys remember hearing about a fellow called the Desert Rat?
In the Southwest United States?
No. Out there at Area 51.
Yeah.
Okay. There was a researcher guy out there, and I'm trying to remember now what the hell his name was. He ended up living out there, which was a dumbass thing to do, because he ended up riddled with cancer. Okay. That place had been nuclear central for bomb tests and stuff.
Surface
okay.
testing.
But he and some of his malcontent friends ended up getting a couple of buses that were headed up to this big soiree that they were having, where Vicki and I were talking and some of the Stars were talking, and got him to go down the wrong road. That was his big victory, okay? And then of course, he ended up with cancer, which was a terrible
I think
thing.
his last name was Campbell, if I remember correctly.
Yes, you're correct. You are correct. I was trying to think of his first name, but I couldn't recall.
Well,
Glenn Campbell. That was his name, Glenn Campbell. Haven't heard
Cowboy?
from him or about him in years. Huh? No, not the singer. No, this is another Glenn Campbell.
All right, we got a couple more. I'm going to throw up, hopefully Bill got it. I just sent it to him because we have a little time and I wanted to. Bill, did you get that last one that you can put up? I sent it to you as an email. See if it pops up here. I'm just curious if you guys have seen this movie because this is one of my my go-tos. Poor Bill's ripping through the emails now. The Quartermass in the Pit.
What?
Mm-hmm.
It is a British movie. They find a spaceship under the streets of London, and it has
English aliens?
Yeah, and it has. There's not one Japanese or Asian person seen in this entire film. So Chris will be very comfortable with this one, and they speak the King's English. But there's a lot going on in this movie. There is kind of satanic kind of overtones that are going on. They're able to see with almost like a telepathic look back to what had happened when the ship was there. There's these grasshopper alien creatures that were there. It's, to me, it's a very, very fun movie on it. And there, if you haven't seen it, it's worth thinking of. It doesn't show up very much. In fact, I have a copy of it, and it took me forever to drive to find this copy of the movie. Have any of you seen the movie?
Yes.
No.
Yes, I have.
Well, we've given them a good review, and we know Chris can watch it because he won't be distracted by lips moving and unsynced speaking. There's actually a very pretty woman in that seems to be a very important part for movies for you guys to watch. So you have all the things that you need there. And for the Padre, it has some interesting good and evil kind of stuff in there. They insert some stuff in there pretty darn good. Okay, we have a clip of the new movie that's coming out. If you don't mind there, Skywatcher, we can throw the clip on real quick. Dan brought it.
If you found out we weren't alone, if someone showed you, proved it to you, would that frighten you?
Good morning, Kansas City. Let's take a look at today. Let's. Today is. Today's.
People have a right to know the truth. It belongs to 7 billion people.
What is it?
You wouldn't believe me if I told you. So I'm going to show you.
What are you gonna do?
Full disclosure to the whole world. All at once.
People keep wondering. Encountering the unknown.
They're coming! They're coming!
They are starved for the truth.
Do you think there could be others?
Why would he make such a vast universe? Yet save it only for us?
Wow.
So
I'll
we
bet
think-
I'll see that one.
Great special effects.
Yeah.
Look forward to that. Looks like they're going to take more of a consciousness angle on that one. I've had moments like that when I
wonder
did
if there'd be any bicycles
camp.
flying through the sky. No.
That was a great preview to a movie. Wow. I got to see that one. That's an amazing preview.
It'll be interesting. So while we're on this subject of disclosure, Spielberg is, phenomenally good actor. Do you all remember the movie Duel that he did? That was one of his very first movies. Dennis Weaver
Yeah.
driving the car, being terrorized by a truck driver on the road.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Talk about a movie that just, wow, what's going on here? And you never figure out, you're never told at the end, what the hell was going on. So guy's got his chops, there's no doubt about it. He can put a great movie together. So I think it's going to be fun to see. So before we jump into the movie about disclosure that Don had set up for us to take a peek at, who here still goes to a movie theater? I'm just curious.
Last one I went to was the final Mission Impossible one, Final Reckoning, that was set last year. And I went to that one simply because I wanted to get the full effect of the stunts that he was doing, the aerial stunts in particular. And so if I know that there's something in a movie that really has to be seen on a larger screen, then I'll splurge with Mrs. Carlson and we'll go to it.
How about you, Chris?
I haven't been to a movie theater. Boy, that's interesting. Probably since 2005. I mean, I have a big flat screen television downstairs with comfortable chairs. My wife makes popcorn, and I got all the comforts, to watch any movie I want. I'm a big movie fan. I love watching movies in the morning with my coffee and stuff, and to me, I think movie theaters are going to be outdated the way technology is. You can pull up any movie you want, pretty much.
Just about. How about you, Don?
I haven't been to a movie theater in 20 years.
Yeah, I'm pretty close to you. I don't think I've been in one. I think if you don't count the what's the fancy one that wraps around and
IMAX.
The IMAX. I've been to like the Blue Angel movie. They had it at the Naval Aviation Museum in Pensacola, and that was phenomenal. I mean,
Well, for one thing, taking my wife to a movie, just to go to a damn movie, is 40, almost $50 out
Easy.
here in LA, and that's not counting popcorn, Milk Duds, Coca-Cola, Pepsi, nothing. Okay, and a medium-sized drink is like $4 or $5. Who needs that? All right, I don't, and I won't. So
the other part is there's absolutely, well, I mean, you can't get on an airplane and not see a dramatic performance of some kind, and the theater is right there with it. You spend that kind of money, and I have to tell somebody, could you please quiet down, or could you stop filming the movie? I know all these complaints going on. It's not fun to me at all.
No.
I love the big screen. I absolutely adore that big screen, but I just don't enjoy the dealing with the conduct that we go through now. So, disclosure, I will start with you, Dan. What did you think?
Overall, I was a little disappointed. There wasn't anything there that I had not heard before, and maybe I was tainted a little bit because it seemed like all of the really key points were in the trailer or in video clips that I'd seen before I watched the entire movie. So there wasn't really anything new there, with one exception. And that was, I forget who it was, said that in order for the government to do a full disclosure, there would have to be some kind of amnesty for the people involved in the whole UAP cover-up. And I found that troubling, because what that tells us is that illegalities have likely been done, as we have suspected, and many people have testified to, up to and including the taking of lives in this. And if the federal government is ever found to have colluded with an alien race on the whole abduction thing, I think that's something that really can't be forgiven. That can't be allowed to stand without some prosecution and indictment there. That's my thought on it.
I kind of trend along with you. Don, how about you?
Oh, you guys know how I feel about this.
Well, you need to share it to the greatest audience on the planet.
It will never, ever, ever happen.
Right, but what about the movie?
disclosure? I've watched that twice now, and it's been very little of it basically enlightened me on anything. Most of that stuff I've been aware of for a long time. Okay, now some of the people that talk, yeah, okay, like Marco Rubio and a couple of others. Going back to the basic premise, all right? I'm sorry, guys. I am as convinced that this is a dog pony show, as God made small green apples, all right? They are sitting, the powers that be, whoever in the hell they are sitting on something that is dark, dark, dark. And they're not going to let it go. Now, what that reason is anybody's guess. Perhaps it would be entirely too shocking. Perhaps they discovered something involved, for example, with abductions of human beings, with mutilations of human beings. I don't know, are you guys aware that I researched that 3 going on 4 years, the whole human mutilation thing? Were you guys aware of that?
Absolutely.
Yeah. That is terrifying. And right now, down in Brazil, there is something going on in some remote areas and regions where native villagers, okay, who have had to arm up. Their people have been victimized by strange 6 and 7 feet tall beings in some kind of armor and helmets. They call them the face peelers. Bodies have been found with their faces literally cut off. What the hell that's all about is anybody's guess. But you know, there are some very bad things going on out there that most people in this country are not aware of. Now, Jacques Vallée, 20 plus years ago, was down there and writing and researching acts that seem to be attacks by these ET beings, if in fact that's what they are. Perhaps interdimensional beings, something along that line. But he was writing about that, and many researchers back here in the United States, and hey, Vicki and I were in dead center of all of this, okay, didn't even want to hear this. When I did my research on and was writing about human mutilations, my God, I was attacked across the board. Nobody wanted to hear that. It was too troubling for them, regardless of the fact that it was the truth. Okay, so you know, I can't say I'm surprised by this at all. And in disclosure, no, nothing will ever come out of it definitively in my book.
Chris?
Well, I found the movie two ways. One, I thought the movie was not as informative as I like it to be. I thought it was semi-entertaining. I looked at it, you know, okay, I'm listening to these guys. I've heard them before. There's two things that kind of struck me. One funny and one interesting is that these guys were very definitive. I mean, they didn't hem and haw. Yeah, they are extraterrestrials. Yeah, they are living on this planet. Yes, they've been visiting us. So, I mean, they really pinpointed themselves. They got themselves locked into a story that way. But the funny thing that I thought was that as they showed this picture, the same one that they showed at the congressional hearing, it was crystal clear. I mean, you could see this thing flying by the airline thing. And then I went back and I reviewed the congressional hearing with the guy with the intelligence says, well, we don't have the ability to sharpen this picture, to get a great picture. We just don't have the computers and stuff. And I go, wait a minute, the guy making this movie did it, and you're telling me the U.S. Intelligence Agency can't do it? So, I mean, I thought that was, and I actually went back and I saw that, and I go, this guy is nothing but lying right to his teeth there. And I thought it was funny, but I kind of agree with what Don says. Look, I think Rush was telling the truth when they said they probably killed people over this theory. And it's just like the JFK assassination. There's probably still people alive and people still working on this where if the disclosure comes out, people are going to go to jail. People are going to go to jail. I mean, there might be indictments and things of that nature. So I think they're just going to hold off until, it comes to the point where everybody that's involved with some really nasty things are dead and buried, and they can't do anything about it. And that's usually how you look at some of these things.
So I approached the movie. I tried to be as neutral as I possibly could going to the movie. I didn't expect a lot out of it. The things that you've all said, I've kind of lined up with. Of course, I crack up. So did we dumb down the picture for the congressional hearing? Was it intentionally blurred up, or did he do a computer enhancement and AI the thing to make it look clearer on that, or is that the original footage? Those kinds of questions come up. Obviously, I tend to fall more into Don's camp that we have gone way down a path of so much lying, so much deceit, so much, people can't handle this, and conclusions that are made, and, secret this, and it's become an industry unto itself. So you're stuck. But Padre, your remark, I resonated with it, because that may be about the only way you will get somebody. They're going to have to let it go. And are we at the point now, have we had enough bad things happen that no one's been held responsible? No one has no one's paid any price for a lot of debacles that have gone on. And they happen, fairly frequently now. They're pretty poignant. They're out there in the media, and we seem to not to be outraged. We're outraged for a day, or whatever it is. But our cycle of reacting to this kind of stuff has really gone down to hours. If you can survive 6 to 8 hours, you're okay. Because
in the same town, but a different avenue. Let me ask Chris a question, because I got roped into the other day watching the first press conference at Brown University about that mass shooting. Chris, did you watch any of that?
Yeah, we actually are going to be doing a piece on it later on after the Christmas breaks on 3 shootings that are kind of confusing. One in Brown, Australia.
I never saw a clusterfuck as bad as that first press conference. Those people struck me as the most incompetent bunch of boobs I think I've ever seen. Chris, would you agree with that?
Well, let me just say that the guy that was running the campus never investigated. From what I understand, he never investigated a murder before. And you can't have that. You just can't have a serious murder case like this, a shooting case like this, with the head man not really knowing how, because Don, the pitfalls and the way things twist and turn in a murder case. You got to have experienced people there.
And they got over 800 freaking cameras on that university. How many freaking videos have they released showing this guy walking around?
They turn those cameras off, Don. I'm practically ground zero for this where I live
and stuff. I will tell you, that's number one. You have to have people who know what they're doing in order to investigate this properly.
Well, my whole point is the competency. We have lost, I think, as a national trait, any semblance of being competent. I've never in my life, I think I am the oldest guy here among all of you. And I go back to the 50s and the 60s, and I can remember, even if they were lying through their teeth, at least they were lying competent liars. All right? Today, the liars are not even competent. You can look at them and know they're fucking lying.
Yeah, well, see, the problem is, and I get back to this, is that when you have interagency rivalries, like nobody really wanted the FBI there, and technically the FBI does not have jurisdiction unless something crosses the state lines, and so if the city, state, or whatever say, "Hey, thanks, but we don't want your help." Now, I will tell you, the FBI, they have one of the best crime labs in the world. I would, first of all, brought them in. They would have had the people go to every single camera. They would have had the technology to do it fast, to be able to do that. So, now, cameras will be shut off. Cameras will be rewound. And some people don't put tapes in. Some people don't back them up. And that's going to happen. I've had that happen several times.
I'm going to jump real quick because I want to jump in on this to say there's a template that's been applied here. And I used to think that this may be a template that was created around UFO/UAP. You parade out a bunch of people who don't really know what they're doing or talking about. This is horrendous. You can't imagine the amount of saturation in the media, the local media of New England with this situation. If you put all New England together, it probably gets close to where Dan lives, or maybe half of California. Okay, so everyone in New England is looking at this, hearing about this, being bombarded by this. And of course, there's some very interesting aspects how the conspiracy stuff is being ginned up within minutes of what's going on that. That's by design. That's not just people that are cranks to get in there. There are people trying to dissuade this. There's active disinformation that goes on because they're trying to cover for other bad decisions that were made. It appears that the head of security didn't have qualifications, didn't have credentials, didn't get credentials at a previous job, ends up at this job. There is sustainable reports that most of the cameras were turned off because they had a lot of folks that were in a pro-Hamas attitude, that they didn't want those people to be seen because those people are being prosecuted for going after this. Now it's tied to the MIT professor. It's almost certain when I came on air with you guys tonight that the same vehicle or a vehicle very close, someone that looked like the shooter, is the same person that took out the MIT nuclear engineering professor. There's ties in that, because
who incidentally was Jewish, was an Israel supporter.
Right.
Okay.
And
that is something that they did not want to come out.
Right. And this is the kind of, but I go back to every time, look at the congressional hearings. Look at what was paraded at the congressional hearings for UAPs. Mm-hmm. And the spot checks and the the representatives that were, outside the chambers or getting on the train or down in the parking lot when they're talking to professors out in the hallway, and all the stuff that's being talked about and pieced together, and those expose kind of things that went in there, and actually nothing was said except for a couple pieces, and they weren't reacted to. And like you said, Don, the stuff that got you pretty upset. As a former law enforcement person, I can completely understand why you're getting so bent out of shape with it, because there was things that were said that were just so patently, that's all that's been talked about on the local talk radio up here. Does anybody get in a room and prepare for these things? Or are they just going to come out saying stuff, whatever stupid, silly thing that comes to their heads, they're going to go say? Now, we're coming towards the end, and I want to quickly run in. Dan, do you want to tell us about the hot investment opportunity that's coming up before we close out this show, our last live show for 2025?
Yeah, I just saw some news today about a fund that is setting up to invest in companies that they think have alien technology, because they think that those companies are going to be producing zero-point energy or new energy sources within the next year or two, and it's going to shake up the investment world. I'm not going to justify it by putting it out on the air here, but you can look it up. And if you wish to invest in alien tech, you can do it now.
What a stocking stuffer. What a stocking stuffer. I mean, honest to God. Folks, you get it all. There was a ton of great comments in the chat tonight. I'm sorry I couldn't really get to all of them. I hope you guys enjoyed the movie. I'm with three really great guys, four actually, because you don't always get to see Skywatcher. He's in the background keeping it all together. It's been a great year. The merriest of Christmases, happy Hanukkah to those that are celebrating that. Hopefully see everyone in the new year. And it's been my pleasure to be with all of you for this year. Thank you so much for being great wingmen and letting me be on your wing.
Ditto.
Merry Christmas, everybody.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas. Happy Hanukkah.
You truly are the greatest audience on the planet. Thank you so much.
Ho, 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 ho.